that better? Y'all get to hear me twice now. You get to hear me through this one and through this one. I know that's what everybody wanted, was to hear me twice. But Judges chapter number 9, dealing with Abimelech here. We're going to try to move on down through the story just a bit as we've looked at it pretty consecutively for the last several Wednesday nights. And just to refresh everybody, we know the story of Abimelech here. He is the son of one of Gideon's concubines. He's not even a son of a wife, okay? So we've talked about him potentially being a misfit. He didn't really fit in with his brothers just because they were fully sons there of actual wives of Gideon, not just concubines, and how that Abimelech has gone back to his granddaddy, his mom's daddy's land into Shechem there. And he has dreamed up this little idea and this little scheme of his where he is going to convince these men to put him up as king. He's going to go into Shechem and he's going to say, look, I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but Gideon had 70 sons, and is it better that these 70 sons rule over you, or would it be better for little old me to come in and rule over you instead, seeing as I am your brother? We share blood here. Would it not be better for y'all to have one king, and that one king be me, somebody that you have a little bit of a tie to? And he goes in there and he tricks these men of Shechem. And they jump on board with that. And the Bible is very specific when it says that all the men of Shechem, there wasn't any resistance here. There was nobody that called him out on his lies. There was nobody that remembered that Gideon said him nor his sons were going to rule. Nobody pointed that out. They went right on along with it. And we've been preaching this story along the thoughts of we really have got to stay informed. We've got to know what's going on. We've got to be up to date on what is happening, or it's really easy for us to be tricked. It's really easy for us to be led astray. That's what's happened to the men of Shechem. They weren't informed. They didn't know what was going on, and now they've been led astray, and they've gone way out. And we pointed out who is bankrolling this whole idea here is this Baal-berith. It's this man, this false god here. They got the money out of the house of Baal-berith. That's what they use to fund this little war effort where they go in and they've hired these light and vain persons, gone into the house of Gideon's sons and has killed all of them but one. They have killed them all, and then the men of Shechem go and they take little old Abimelech here and they put him up as king. And I was pointing out last week how that they did it in front of this pillar. And it was the same pillar that you find in Joshua 24, where they made the covenant with God that they were going to serve Him and no other gods. And now here we are in front of the same pillar, and they have gone and they have given their support to Abimelech, who is supported by Baal-berith's money and men that worship a false god. And we pointed out how that what essentially has happened is these men, Shechem, have been pulled to the side and have been lied to and have been tricked into going and supporting something they had no business supporting. But I want to get just a bit further here. After he has gone in, he has killed everybody but Jotham. And the Bible says in verse number 5, Abimelech, and he went unto his father's house at Ophrah, and slew his brethren, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons upon one stone. Notwithstanding, yet Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the house of Millo, and went and made Abimelech king by the plain of the pillar that was in Shechem. And when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood in the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice, and cried, and said unto them, Hearken unto me, ye men of Shechem, that God may hearken unto you. Notice who he's talking to there. He's not talking to Abimelech. He's not trying to call out what Abimelech has done. He's not trying to point that out. He says, ye men of Shechem, listen to me, hearken to me, understand what I'm saying to you, because I'm trying to remind you and let a little light on the situation so that you might see what you have done and how that you have messed this thing up and the situation that you have put yourself in. Hearken unto me as I tell you what's going on, so in turn of that, you might then go and hearken unto God, that God may hearken unto you. What's he mean there? He's saying, I want to tell you what's going on so that when you realize it's wrong and you turn from it, then God can hearken unto you and give you forgiveness there. He's trying to point some things out. And he's just going to give them this little illustration here, and this is where the Lord has drawn my attention tonight. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them. Verse number 8. And they said unto the olive tree, Reign thou over us. But the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness wherewith by me they honor God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? And the trees said to the fig tree, Come thou and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said the trees unto the vine, Come thou and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine which cheereth God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said all the trees unto the bramble, Come thou and reign over us. And the bramble said unto the trees, If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Anybody understand what's happening? It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to grasp here, but essentially what Jotham is saying here, he's saying, look, God was supposed to rule over you. You wouldn't let him rule over you. Gideon, you wanted him to rule over you. He wouldn't rule over you. The sons here of Gideon, they were in line to rule over you, but they weren't going to do it either. And now you've called out the bramble. The bramble is Abimelech here. But what the Lord has drawn my attention to is these first three plants here. The olive tree, the fig tree, and the vine. He's drawn my attention to that as I look at these different plants here, because I've noticed something here in the text. Why in the world, when these good plants, these good trees, why would they not go and be king? Did you notice the excuse they gave? None of them said, I just don't want to. None of them said, I'm not qualified to. Every one of them would not go and be king over the rest of these trees because they already had a good work that they were doing. They already had a work that they were involved in. Stick with me and it's going to make sense here in just a little bit, I promise. They went and they asked an olive tree. In verse 9, the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness wherewith by me they honor God and man? He's saying, if I leave what I'm doing now, I'm taken away from God to go be over you. And I'm not going to do it. Then they talked to the fig tree. And the fig tree says, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit? Should I forsake the things that I'm doing and the fruit that I'm bearing? Should I forsake the good works that I'm involved in to then go and be over you instead? This fig tree is mentioned over in the book of Matthew, if you're interested in that. Matthew 21. You remember there that they find that fig tree and it didn't have any fruit on it. And Jesus curses that fig tree. And when they come back by, the fig tree is dried up and is dead. It's an illustration of the nation of Israel and how that they were not bearing fruit and how they were going to shrivel up there. It's a great illustration for us tonight as well if we're not producing fruit. This fig tree here is producing fruit. It is doing a good job. It is doing all that it's supposed to do. So it's not going to leave its job. Then the tree said unto the vine, Come and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine which cheereth God and man to be promoted over the trees? Should I leave what I'm doing that is bringing joy to God and man? All three of them had something that they were already doing, that they were already involved in, that was a good work that they knew if they left would not be getting done anymore. Therefore, they weren't going to vacate their spot to go and try to be over a false work, because that's what it was. That's what this whole deal was with the men of Shechem trying to make Abimelech king. That's all it was a false king and a false anointing there. It was not something that the whole kingdom was in on. It was something that these men dreamed up and did. It was a false work. It was a work that was worth nothing, and now they're trying to bring these good trees in to that. They're trying to take something out of a good spot and put it in a bad spot. Brother, you said, what in the world are you talking about? Well, let me give you some verses here, and I believe this might tie it together for you. In the book of Nehemiah, chapter 6, verse 1, it says this. Now it came to pass when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I builded the wall. What wall? The wall of Jerusalem. They're rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem. They heard that I builded the wall and that there was no breach left therein. Though at that time I had not set up the doors upon the gates. That Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. What's going on? Nehemiah is in a good work. He's rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. The enemy is coming in, the ones that are against him. They've tried to call him out of the good work so they can get him away from all of that, and they can do him mischief when he gets there. But notice what he says in verse number 3. And I sent messengers unto them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? He says, I can't come down there to you because if I leave the good work that's going on that the Lord has called me to, nobody's doing that work anymore. Now there's a vacancy over here so that I can go over here and get in trouble. What's happening with the fig tree and the olive tree and the vine there in Judges chapter number 9? They're saying we can't leave our post. We can't leave the good work that we're doing. We can't leave where God has us placed, because if we leave, there's a vacancy there, and the place that we'd be going to is a bad place full of mischief anyways. Brother Easton, how does this relate to me? I'll tell you how. You know why we got problems today? You know why we have problems in our homes, we have problems in our churches, why we have problems as a nation? It's because people are not in the place where God would have them be. Because they've left a good work, they've left where the Lord has placed them, they've left what they're supposed to be doing, and they've gone and they've chased after everything else, and I'm going to prove it to you tonight, and I hope you'll get with me and realize this. You see, these trees here, if they would have left the good work, the work they were going to was a false work, a bad work. What are we involved with that we're leaving the good work to keep up with a false one? We live in a world today where it is convinced us that the things of God are no longer as important as they used to be. What's supposed to be our core focus? Should be faith, family, right? We should faith be above everything and family after that. Faith and family, but what is the devil attacking the most? He's attacking the family, he's attacking faith tonight, he's trying to distract us from our core values. We have this rat race of life that keeps us so tied up and busy that we don't have time for the things of God. Ooh, it's going to be one of them sermons tonight, I see. Everybody's real quiet. I must mean y'all feel like I did when the Lord was beating me up with this. See, let me say something tonight. You can't keep up with the Kardashians and God. You'll never be able to pull it off. You can't keep up with both of them. You can't keep up with everything that's going on. So you're going to have to pick one. We fill our days and our moments that should be spent with God with all manner of things that equate to nothing profitable. Brother Easton, I don't have time to read my Bible. But we had time to check everybody's post on Facebook. But we had all the time in the world to catch the ball game. We had all the time in the world to go and do this. You see, the devil has got us all tricked in. He's pulled us from the place we're supposed to be in and put us in a place where we're doing no good whatsoever. And a lot of us have had the wool pulled over our eyes, and we have not even realized that we ain't in the right place no more. When I was still trying to do a little bit of grappling, we decided we was going to go to Sardis Lake one night. They were supposed to meet me at the boat ramp at 10 p.m. Because if you don't put your boxes out at night, folks will sit there and watch you put them in the water, and they'll come behind you and they'll mark them with a GPS, and they'll help you run your boxes grappling. So they're supposed to meet me at 10. Then I'm sitting at the boat ramp, and they called me and said, we ain't even left New Albany yet. We'll be there in a little while. I said, I'm at this boat ramp. I'm going to sleep. Wake me up when you get here. Long story short, at 2:30 a.m., we're out on the lake bed. If you're familiar with Sardis Lake, we're out there around Buzzard Roost. If you're not familiar, when the lake water is low, you have to stay in the old river channel. If you get out of the river channel, there's a bunch of buckbrush and stuff, and you can't get back in the river channel. You'll end up on a mud flat, and you won't be able to get nowhere. There's a little problem at 2:30 a.m. on Sardis Lake. It's dark. You can't see nothing. And we thought we knew exactly where we were. But then we got lost. And at 3 a.m. in the morning, we're sitting out here, might as well have been in outer space because we can't see nothing nowhere. We're on a phone trying to get service so that Google Earth and that little blue dot can tell us where we are so we can try to find out where we need to go. In our minds, we needed to go this way, but according to Google, we needed to go that way. You know what happened? We had got turned around, ended up in a place we had no business being, and we didn't even realize that we had gotten there. What's happening to the church today, what's happening to families today, what's happening to Christians today is that the devil has got us so turned around backwards, we ain't got a clue that we're out of the will of God. We ain't got a clue that we're not in the place where we ought to be. We ain't got a clue that we're not doing things the way we ought to be doing it anymore. He has pulled the wool over our eyes. Instead of reading our Bibles, we read about the wedding plans for Taylor Swift. Instead of listening to good gospel music that honors God and helps the soul, we'd rather keep up with Jelly Roll's new album. Instead of our families having devotion time together, we turn the TV on and all sit in the same room while we rot our brains on social media. I'm right, and you know I'm right. You know why I know I'm right? Because that's exactly what me and my wife do. It's exactly what we have fallen victim to. Next time you go out and eat in public and you see a family sitting there, count how many phones are out on the table. Count how many folks are sitting there buried in that thing and they ain't even paying attention to anything else. You know why marriages are breaking up right now? And they say, I just feel like the spark is gone. I feel like there's no love. I feel like we don't know each other anymore. We don't know each other anymore because we ain't done nothing but talk to our phones ever since we've been married. Bracy, you're being harsh tonight. I am being harsh tonight. I'm being harsh tonight because this is the way the devil has tricked us into this, and every one of us has fallen victim to it, and now we've gotten way out of the place where God would have for us to be. And I'm afraid we don't even realize it. You see, I'm not against any of these things, but I am against them stealing our time with God. And you ought to be too. You ought to be upset about these things that have taken your time with God. But instead, we love our phones and we love our TVs and we love our own selves more than we love spending time with God. You don't know why we're in the shape we're in? There it is. There it is. And I'm preaching to me tonight. I'm preaching right up here and y'all just along for the ride. We have become the trees of this example. But instead of saying no and staying in the good work, we leave out and get out of our place. I saw a video the other day, and a guy had got on there, and he asked ChatGPT, one of these big AI apps. He asked it, AI, what would you do if you were the devil? And the answer he gave was spot on with what is happening today. This is what AI says it would do if it was the devil. I wouldn't waste my time trying to get you to worship me. No, I'd first convince you not to worship God at all. Sounds like an atheist to me. Sounds like this new movement of the Big Bang Theory. There's no way God's real. Don't worship anything. It says, I would tell you that truth is relative. Your truth, my truth. Kind of seems like where we're at today, don't it? Facts don't exist anymore. It's all about everybody's opinion. I feel this way, it must be right. I would tell you that truth is relative. Your truth, my truth, until nobody knows which way is up. And then I would whisper, as long as you are happy, it's right. Go do what makes you happy. Whether it's right or wrong in the eyes of God, you go do what makes you happy. I'd keep you busy. Too busy for prayer. Too busy for church. Too busy to ask the eternal questions you need to ask. I would fill your hands with a phone so you'd never have time to fold them in prayer. That one wears me out. That one hurts. But we all want to sit here and say, I don't have time to pray. But that phone, we spend all of our time on it. If you don't believe me, find that little app on your phone where you can find your screen time, and you're going to be shocked how much time you spend on it. I'd break families, get fathers to be absent, marriages bitter, and kids confused. If I can fracture the home, I can fracture the future. We've got so many folks indoctrinating our kids today to where they don't even know to go to the bathroom and figure out if they're a boy or a girl. You know what that is? Sounds like confusion. Who's the author of confusion? The devil. But he's got us all mixed up and all confused. We might as well be a dog chasing our tail in a circle and we ain't getting nowhere. Because we don't know anymore. I would divide the church. Petty arguments, comparison, small offenses, and a celebrity culture. If I can get Christians fighting each other, they'll never fight me. AI might be on to something. They might be on to something. I'd desensitize you. I would glamorize porn in movies, normalize it in music, and laugh at it in comedy and celebrate it in culture until what once shocked you now entertains you. We're there. We are right there. We are living AI's plan if it was the devil. to destroy the church and destroy the family values that we have today. What was the American dream? What was the nuclear family? It was a man and it was his wife and it was their 2 kids and the white picket fence. Now the American dream is everybody comes here and does whatever they want to be and is whatever they think they are that day. When did it happen? When did we get to the point where this took place? I'll tell you, we begin to get there when folks got like these trees, and instead of saying, no, I'm staying in my place and keeping to do my good work, we got pulled into another place, and those places became vacated. And if those places come up empty, nobody's doing what they ought to be doing anymore. We need to realize that the game they played back then, this pattern that they set, is still happening today. We're just blind to it. The culture has changed before our eyes. We have some good trees, those that have purpose, those that have a place to be, and they have left their positions vacant, and now we're dealing with the fallout of it. We have people living with regrets because they did so much damage in their lives running around serving sin that they never thought they could come back from it. There's a fellow I used to talk to quite frequently, and he was a preacher. Growing up, he had a drug problem. He got right with the Lord, he got saved, and cleaned up his life and surrendered to preach, and he was doing so good. And next thing you know, he OD'd again, and he got arrested in Alabama, and his whole life seemed to be falling apart. And he called me, and this is what he told me. He said, every time I'm clean and I'm sober, all I can think about is how bad I've treated everybody else and how deep the hole is that I'm trying to fill in. And I feel so bad that I go back to it again. You know what he's done? He has set his life up for a pattern to where he doesn't think he's ever going to be happy again because of it. Choices back then. Choices back then. Another fellow right now that's a preacher as well. He ran around and he did drugs and he did all of these different things, and he ended up having a wreck under the influence one time. And he had that wreck and he walked away and he thought everything was good until years down the road he'd been living with back pain and decided to have the surgery to fix his back. He had the surgery to fix his back, come out of it the other side, had no feeling in his legs, didn't know if he'd ever walk again. Now he's on a cane. We took our youth group to sing to him at the hospital when I was at Locust Grove. And he got up. Well, I say he got up. He held on to that cane and he pulled himself up and he held on to his chair on one side and that cane on the other side. And he said, look at me. Look at me. My decisions and what I did in my life back then has made me what I am right now. And he told every one of our youth kids the momentary decisions and the good times that he had, how that it affected his life later on. What happened? He got out of the place where he was supposed to be. He got out of that place and sin got in. We have people living with regrets. We have marriages that are ending left and right because they thought it more important to scroll on Facebook and binge our favorite show or serve our own selves than to invest in our marriage. I've done a couple sets of premarital counseling. Anybody that I perform their wedding ceremony for, I do their counseling beforehand. And about that whole little booklet that I follow on counseling is about one thing: communication. Communication. Because if you cannot communicate and you do not talk to one another, guess what your marriage will do? It will fall apart. It will fall apart. Guess what happens? You might have the best communication skills in the world, but if you sit in the same room and act like roommates and you never talk to one another because you're too busy doing your own thing, don't be surprised when your marriage falls on the rocks. It's touched everybody's families. I'm not trying to be insensitive tonight. But just about every one of them that I've talked to that have left their spouse and gone and chased after somebody else, they'll say something along the lines of, well, this one just acted like I didn't exist anymore, and this one gave me all the attention that I wanted. I'm thinking of a situation right now. And they were on the rocks, and she went and began to talk to her husband, and this is what she said. She said, I feel like there's never any time for us anymore. I want you to spend the next couple of months trying to court me like you did when we first got together. I want you to treat me like you did when we first started dating, when you were trying to prove to me that you were the type of person that I wanted to marry. Why did she have to say that? Because they had grown apart. Because they were no longer doing what they were supposed to be doing anymore. There was no communication. And because there was none of that, they felt like there was no love, and then the marriage fell apart. It's happening everywhere tonight because folks are getting out of their place. We have kids that can't wait to leave the home when they turn 18 so they can chase a culture that glorifies sin, all because we failed them at home. Huh? Yeah. We didn't just fail to teach them that a family-oriented culture and how that we would love and depend on one another, but we taught them that kids are a burden and always in the way. Out of their own mouth, I've heard parents tell their kids, I can't wait for you to be 18 and get out of the house so that we can go and do what we want to do again. I went and helped a boy. He called me one time, said I need to move some things out of my mom's house. Him and his fiancée had gotten a house to live in, and he was going to move into it before they got married. He said, I don't have anybody to help me. I don't have a trailer. I don't have anything to move my stuff out with. And I said, I got you. He said, I'll pull my trailer over there, we'll load it up, and I'll help you put it in your house because you ain't got nobody else to help you. I'm expecting when I get to this boy's house for him to have a bunch of stuff. You know what he had? He had a bed frame from Walmart that he bought himself. His entertainment center that he told me he had was about this wide and about this tall. It was a little nightstand that he was using in the entertainment center. He had enough stuff that I could have put it all in the bed of my truck. The biggest thing he had was just his mattress. As we're loading all that up, I said, man, why are you in such a rush? He said, because Mom came in the other day and told me she can't wait for me to get my stuff out of this room so that she can move her stuff in and take the room back. Because we've taught kids that they're a burden. We've taught kids that they might as well be a parasite on our lives. No, we haven't done that. There's no way we've done that. Okay? How many families today get home and the kids are bouncing off the wall and want attention and want to be played with? We go and put their favorite show on in one room, or we hand them an iPad and tell them to sit over there and have fun. I've seen it. I've done it sometimes. And the Lord's convicted my heart. Because all I'm doing when I do that is I'm teaching my kids that I just want them away from me. Then why should we be surprised when they turn 18 and all they want to do is get away from us? We've taught them that. We've taught them that. We have gotten to the place where we are not where God would have us be in our culture. We're not where God would have us to be in our homes, our marriages, and what we are teaching. But I just wondered tonight as I was looking to this, what would happen if instead of being these trees over here and getting tricked into that and getting called out into this bad work and falling for the tricks of the devil, what if instead we were able to stay over here and teach our kids and those around us what it was like to live life the way God wanted? What if instead of us talking about the ball game last night, we were talking about the church service on Sunday? Let me tell you something. Jackson Dart is now the starting quarterback for the Giants. I guess. After his last game, he might not be. But I recorded the ball game because I wanted to watch him play. And I sat up in the bed until 12:30 because that's how long it took me to go back and watch the game. Why? Because I was scared the next day at work somebody would spoil it for me. And in case we talked about it, I wanted to be able to be in on the conversation. But what if, instead of the conversations being about something like that, the conversation was about the Word of God, or it was about the sermon that was preached, or it was about what God has done in somebody's life, and people felt left out that they couldn't talk about that? What would they do? They would go and they would get in the Word of God. They would go to church to see what it's about. They would try to get on board with that so that they could be involved with what's going on. I remember the little old store where all the old-timers would go and drink their coffee every morning. When I was growing up, during the summertime, when I was out of school, Papa would pick me up and he would carry me down there and he'd get me a turkey sandwich and he'd get me a Coke to drink. He was always going to get his Country Time lemonade. He had to have it. But we'd go down there. You know what those old men were talking about? They wasn't talking about the ball game. They wasn't talking about Outer Banks. They wasn't talking about some Netflix series. They wasn't talking about this, that, and the other. They were talking about what God had done in their lives. They were talking about church. They were talking about reading the Bible and what the Lord had showed them out of it. And everybody that came in there, they saw that and they heard that. When was the last time we heard anybody talking about God outside the church house? When was the last time we talked about God outside the church house? When was the last time we tried to change the conversation away from the things of this world and back to what God would have it be? Because we've gotten out of our place. We've gotten out of our place, and since we're out of our place and they're vacant, the position is not being handled the way it's supposed to. What are you talking about? Okay? I'm going to preach this with grace the best way I know how. I've dealt with many people that have had marriages that are in a bad place. I've dealt with many people that have their lives and they don't know why in the world it's not running the way they want it to run. I'll tell you why. We've got a bunch of men that are out of place. We got a bunch of men that are out of place. Brother Alan Gulick preached a big men's meeting at Locust Grove one time. And he said we got a bunch of boys parading around acting like men. And we do. We absolutely do. Now, I'm not going to tell you what else he called them, but he had some strong words about it. Not any bad words. Okay, let me say that. I don't want y'all running with that, thinking I'm throwing him under the bus. But no, he wasn't very nice to them. He said, we got a bunch of boys playing around as men. What are you talking about? If the man is the spiritual leader of the home and he never prays, never reads the Bible, never participates at church, then why in the world are we surprised when his family doesn't do it either? You'll know why our church is so weak today? Because we have weak men in the church. You'll know why we have a bunch of women that folks will look at and say, well, they ain't got no business in that position. They need to be more on board and submit to their husband more. You'll know why they're not submitting to their husband anymore? Because that place the husband's trying to put them in is the place that nobody wants to be. It's a place of unreal expectations. It's a place where they feel that they're alone. It's a place where they feel there's no love. It's a place that nobody will want to be. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the man that will go to work and he'll come home and all he does is plop down in the recliner and expects his wife to be a servant to him and cook and clean and do everything around the house and take care of the kids, take care of him and treat him like he's a big old kid. And then all of a sudden they want to get upset when she's not happy being his wife anymore. I wouldn't want to be there either. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. Because we got a lot of boys today that want to look back to where things used to be and say, well, that's a woman's job. And I've heard them say that. I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning. I'm not doing laundry because that's the woman's job. Well, it was 100 years ago. But guess what? Something happened called World War II and the ladies had to go to work. And most of them did come back to the house, and now they're working 40 hours a week just like the men are, and the men are expecting them to still do everything they did back then. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. You'll know why a lot of wives today won't get behind their husbands and support them because they don't want to be there anymore because their husband treats them like nothing more than an indentured servant. We have men that are not in the place where they are supposed to be. And when you're not in the place you're supposed to be, guess what? It's not being done. If you take the man who's supposed to be the spiritual leader of the home and you take him over here and you put him where he's just playing around and just goofing off and not doing what he's supposed to be doing, he's not leading his family to church, he's not leading them in prayer, he's not helping them read and study and understand their Bible, now guess who has to step up and try to do it? How many times have you seen a mama and she's the one getting the kids up and making them go to church? How many times? How many times have we seen it to where the mama is the one who's got to be the spiritual leader of the home? Because daddy won't do it. That's why our churches are weak. That's why our homes are weak too, because guess what happens? When daddy's not in his place as spiritual leader of the home, now mom tries to step in and do her job that God didn't equip her to do. I've got nothing against women, but we're made different. That's biology. And that's what God designed us to be like. The woman tries to step into the role as a spiritual leader of the home, but when she does that, guess what role she can't do anymore? Her role at the house. She's too busy trying to be the spiritual leader of the home, be the disciplinary of the home, be the one that's keeping everything in order there. And now all of a sudden her position that should be to build that home, to make it a place of love, to make it a place where you can have that connection with one another, where you can have that place to grow and to prosper and to get better, that atmosphere that kids need. She can't provide that anymore because she's too busy trying to do daddy's job. Now you don't have any love in the home. Now you don't have any desire for kids to stay there anymore because it's a miserable place to be. They turn 18, they leave the house, and all they want to do is do everything that their parents wouldn't let them do. They run out and do everything that God wouldn't have them do. All because somebody's out of place. We have marriages out of order because the man is mad at his wife for getting out of her role. She's out of role because she don't want to be in that role anymore because it ain't a good place to be. Why do kids leave? The parents are out of place. Why do marriages end? Their partners are out of place. They're not doing it the way God has it laid out to do. Why do churches have spats and splits? And why do they end up breaking up and eventually dying? Because people are not where they're supposed to be. We're not leading our homes the way we ought to be leading our homes. We're not doing the things that God has laid out for us to do. Why do societies collapse? Because, just like Mr. AI said, if he can get in and he can fracture the home, he can fracture the future. And when you get to the point where our kids don't grow up in the atmosphere that God has planned for the home, and they're not nurtured and cared for the way they're supposed to be, they get out, they want to run, they don't want to be with God's house anymore, they're sick and tired of it. They sit there and watch their parents claim to be church folks and saw the way that they live, and they said, I want nothing to do with it. And they leave and they get out of the house. And then they're mad at the church. They're mad at the house of God. They hate the preacher. They hate the Bible. They don't want nothing to do with it anymore. Why? Most time it goes back to somebody getting out of their place. Most time it goes back to somebody out of their place, and because we're out of our place, it's a domino effect. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So what is Jotham's message here? What's his message? What's he trying to say to them? He's trying to get them to realize that by supporting Abimelech, they're out of their place and they're not doing what God has for them to do. What's God trying to tell us tonight? Well, what He's laid on my heart real big is simply this. I have no business expecting the kind of results that God has shown in the past if I don't live up and do what God has laid for me to do. Let me ask you a question tonight. Close your eyes. No looking around tonight. If you prayed for services before we got to church tonight, raise your hand. 3 people. 3 people. Keep them close. If you have led your family in any type of Bible study or devotion in the last month, raise your hand. 1 hand. 1 hand. If you have gathered your whole family together and y'all have prayed together before bed at least 1 time this week, raise your hand. Nobody. Rachel, what are you trying to say tonight? Are you trying to make me feel bad? I just want you to feel like I'm feeling, because I'm feeling tore down because I can't raise my hand either. We've got to that place, we've got to that time to where the things of this world have gotten more important to us than what God has given us. We've got to the point where we care more about keeping up with this rat race of life than we do about our homes, than we do about our kids, than we do about our church. And when we've gotten to that place, we've got no business being surprised when it all falls apart. We've got no business being shocked when our kids grow up and they don't love coming to church. We've got no business being shocked when our marriages aren't as strong as they ought to be. We've got no business showing up to the house of God, wondering why God hadn't showed up and given us a great service when we ain't even asked Him to a single time. Brother Easton, why are you so mean? I don't want to be mean. I don't. I just want to be in my place. Because if I'm not in my place, then I'm not doing my job. I've got a wife that depends on me. I've got kids that depend on me. I've got a church that depends on me. And if I'm not in my place, this whole thing's going to fall apart. Every single bit of it might as well be in vain. Daddy, if you're not in place, your family is not going to turn out the way that it could. Mama, if you're not in place, the home is not going to be loving and full of nurture and care like it could be. We have got to get back to being in our place. How are we going to do it? We're going to have to open up our eyes and realize that all the things that we're loving so much today, all the things that we spend all of our time chasing, all the things that we want to be a part of now, it's not of God, it is of the devil, and it is a distraction to try to pull us away and get us out of our place. Because when you vacate your place, nobody's stepping in to fill it. Mama, you cannot fill the role as the spiritual leader of the home. You can't. Because God hasn't made you that way. You can bring your kids to church. You can do everything that you want to do. I admire that. I've seen some wonderful, godly ladies who have stepped in and tried to fill that role. And they've done the best job they possibly can with it. But that role is for a daddy. That role is for the dad. That role is for the father, for the man of the house. Let me ask you this, and I'm fixing to be done. Miss Angie, you can come on to the piano. Maybe I'll just give you this one example. Outside of the spiritual, outside of the church world, maybe it'll help bring it home tonight. Most of your crime comes from one type of family. You know what type of family that is? That's the home that has no daddy present. You go and you look it up. You go and you study out the results on it. And almost every single time you take the daddy out of the home, the kids are going to suffer. Why? Because that's daddy's role, and that's where daddy's supposed to be. That's where the man of the home is supposed to be. And if he's not there doing his role, don't be shocked when the family doesn't turn out right. Don't be shocked when it doesn't work out good for you. I don't know, the Lord's He's hounded me today. He's eaten me up one side and down the other. And He's really burdened me to do a better job of being in my place. Because if I'm not in my place and it's vacant, I know somebody that would love to get in there. And he would love to make a mess out of my life. And he'd love to make a mess out of my family. And he'd love to make a mess out of this church. And if we leave him an open spot, guess where he'll go? Right there. He'll get right smack dab in the middle of it. Let's all stand tonight, Miss Angie, as you play.